Good afternoon, Mr. Koteeswaran. Welcome back to your alma mater.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Professor Nagarajan. Very glad to be here.
Yeah, so nice to have you.
But I do come here once in a while.
Okay.
I've been here about 6 months ago.
Right.
But before that, a couple of years before that.
Okay.
So I got a special attachment to this place.
And you graduated with the first batch in
Yes.
64, civil engineering.
Yeah.
So
long time ago.
Just tell us about your life journey afterwards, just briefly.
Well, once I finished my studies here, I went looking for a job in Mumbai, and I did get a job with a consultant for a salary of something like 400 rupees a month or something, which I thought was too low. Yes, I thought too much about myself even then. So I said I'll think about it, and I didn't fancy that anyway. And in the meanwhile, my father had contacted a friend of his to see whether he can get some contacts to offer me a job, and I got an offer from London saying that if I'm willing, they are prepared to take me on and try me. So I came back from Mumbai fairly quickly to get all the visas and things like arranged, and I left India in August '64, about 6 months after I graduated. Went to London and joined. The company was then called C.J. Pell and Partners. They were consulting engineers, structural engineers, and I joined them as the designation was an assistant engineer. And slowly from there, I went up. I was there for about a couple of years before I went and did a postgraduate at University of London, at Queen Mary College. Did a master's degree in advanced structural analysis. And came back and joined the firm again because they wanted me back. And slowly I went up in the ladder. 5 years later, I was an associate of the company. 10 years later, I was a director of the company. And I stayed as a director until I retired with the same company. So I did work with them for about 39 years and a few months. So it was, I enjoyed my work. I think it's very important for people to enjoy their work rather than treating it as a chore and a necessity. I enjoyed my work tremendously. So there are some buildings in London which are my hallmark. And slowly and gradually, of course, as you know, when you go up the ladder, you forget the engineering part of it, and you become more of an administrator or a planner for the firm. And I tried to avoid that as much as possible. So I had my hand in design for a very long time as a director, which I think I was the only one doing that. I enjoyed designing, especially conceptual design. So I did, I think, more than 100 buildings conceptually, most of it in England, a few in the Far East.
Sure.
I was sort of little bit involved with the stock exchange building in Mumbai and the Asiad Stadium in Delhi. Not much, but a little bit. My specialty was tall buildings, basically, especially the lateral stability of tall buildings. And I always was one of my ambitions to design a seismic resistant building, but I didn't get a chance because England is not a seismic area. And because of that, I wanted to go to California, which is the place to be. In 1970, I think it was, I did get a scholarship to go and do a PhD at Berkeley, University of California. And we were all set to go, my wife and I, and we had applied for a resident permit, and in those days it wasn't that difficult. It took a bit of time, but we had our green cards ready when we landed there. But the last minute I changed my mind, didn't go, and stayed in England. And I had a lot of incentives to stay as well, which I used. And at that time, we were looking for a house to stay, because once I decided that I'm going to stay in England, then there wasn't much point in renting a place. So England is a place where people would like to buy their houses rather than rent, which is prevalent in Europe. So we bought a house and stayed there and carried on.
Okay. So how do you think your education at IIT Madras play a role in your enjoying your career?
Yes, I think my education was primarily the reason for my jumping up in the ladder in England, because by far I was the most liked graduate in the company, because of the acute knowledge of structures that was imparted to me while I was here. One thing that I did miss was not knowing the codes of practice, which comes on by experience. But I would say, if ever I give some advice to any institution or anything like that, I would say that part of the curriculum must also be the rationalization of the codes with what you are learning in theory. Why is the code slightly different to what you learn, and why is that in such a way, and what is the basis for it? That would give a lot more incentive for people to go into private practice or things like that instead of a public service. I think that's very important, and that's one thing that I had to learn. But I think the basic education and the basic structural knowledge that I had, even at a B.Tech degree, was quite something compared to the local boys.
Sure.
So I found that even though it's only an undergraduate degree, some of the things we teach are not taught, at least at that time in England, until you come to do a postgraduate. Of course, different countries have different ways of imparting knowledge. Um, I'm not saying it's wrong or right. It's just in my case it was useful.
Sure. And did you also go through the extended engineering drawing and workshop classes?
Either here,
Yeah,
we had workshop classes here,
yeah,
and we had engineering drawing as a subject, both machine drawing as well as civil engineering drawing. But funnily enough, once I joined work, I never did a drawing because they wanted me to be the designer rather than the draftsman, which I didn't appreciate that very much to start with, because sometimes it's better to draw something to know what you're designing, instead of just designing and leaving it for somebody else to interpret your design and draw it. If you do it yourself, you know what you want. But that was the way it was in England. They have a draftsman as a separate set of people, and a designers as a separate set of people. They work together, but one doesn't do the other. So one of the reasons for that was possibly the draftsmen are not engineers.
okay.
They are basically draftsmen. They do a little bit of engineering so that they understand what the engineer says,
Right.
but that's about all. Maybe that was the reason for it. And in the UK, the feeling was that a designer shouldn't waste his time drawing, which I thought was not the right way to look at it, but that was how they were. So I couldn't change it, because that was the country's practice. It's different for an architect. An architect designer also draws his own drawing, but for an engineer, they are completely bifurcated, and it goes on different planes basically.
But so do you think design should be a part of the curriculum?
Sorry?
Should design be a part of the undergraduate curriculum?
Definitely, I think so. I think so, because the first thing that hits you when you go to a design office is your theory is okay, but unless you know how to design it after the theoretical results, you are not considered an engineer. So it's not like doing a research project. It's different when you do a consulting practice. It's different, and my experience is all with consulting, not research. So the practical aspects of it is more important, and I think a short review of that could be very useful for an undergraduate study.
So what about your hostel life? You were at Kaveri, right?
I loved my hostel life. I was in Kaveri. I had some lovely neighbors there. Krishnadas Nair, who was the chairman of Hindustan Aeronautics, was my next room, and we used to have a lovely time. Yes. I remember the problems we had with our food for the first 6 months, when we were not in Kaveri hostel, but we were in a different hostel in Saidapat, Little Teachers College hostel, and the South Indian crowd was not very happy with the food because most of the food was chapati and sabji, and so there was a bit of a hiccup to start with, but afterwards the food became so good. that I used to go home on a Saturday morning because I didn't want to miss the breakfast, which was very special on Saturday morning. And I used to go home, and then I used to come back on Saturday night for two things. One is for the biryani on Sunday night, and the other one is to see the open air theatre film,
Right.
which was about 8 o'clock in the evening or something. So yes, I enjoyed my life at Kaveri very much.
So what are your best memories of the campus? What is the thing that you remember the best and you think, wow?
The best memories of my campus is the interaction I had with the faculty. 2 or 3 professors who I considered my mentors. Dr. D.V. Reddy, who did applied mechanics for us. Then Professor of Civil Engineering, who recently passed away.
Professor Varghese?
Yeah, him. And Professor Shankaran, who took soil mechanics for me. They became very good friends afterwards, but at the time they were real mentors for me. So I remember the interaction with them very much, especially Dr. D.V. Reddy, who helped me. I think it was the 3rd year when I suddenly fell very ill during the final exam, and I couldn't write the exam. And he fought for me to have a re-exam when we came back. And because of that, 2 or 3 other students also had a chance to rewrite their parts. And I can't forget that, because I could have lost a year.
Sure.
I had met Dr. Reddy afterwards as well. He was a professor in all sorts of universities in the United States, the final one being in Florida. And I met him once when he was traveling through London to Chennai, and we had a lunch meeting, and it was very nice. I met my civil engineering professor 4 years back, I think. I went to his house and met him, and I was very sad when he passed away.
Are you still in touch with your batchmates?
Some of them. In fact, I'm seeing 1 or 2 on Saturday. But it's the exciting thing about this. It's not just my batchmates. My batchmates, yes. It's not my civil engineering batchmates. I have lots of friends in all the other different disciplines as well. Chemical engineering, metallurgy, mechanical, electronics, and so on. And one of my closest friend did his electronics in the same batch, but he did electronics. He now lives in Netherlands. And he's coming here on Saturday, and he and I are hosting a breakfast for some of my friends. Yes, it's very interesting. I remember quite a few of them. And when we met for the 50th year over here, that time I met a lot of them who I hadn't seen after 1964. And that was a great time.
You still recognize them when they recognize you?
Difficult. Some of them were difficult, but funnily enough, some of them I recognized by their voice rather than their figure. Especially the one Srinivas Nageshwar, who was my table tennis partner for doubles, and I recognized him only by his voice because he had lost all his hair, and I couldn't recognize him at all, but I recognized his voice.
So, the campus has obviously changed a lot since your
It
days.
has, it has.
What do you think? Do you think, are you happy with the way the campus is
Our
developed?
campus is fantastic. It really competes with any world campuses anywhere else. I've been to quite a few in England and in the States. Been to Stanford, to MIT, and so on and so forth. I think it can easily compete with any of those. Yeah, it's a very quiet, serene campus.
Right.
Nice atmosphere to study.
So I also do want to thank you for your giving back to the institute. I know you have made a few gifts in the past.
Yeah.
So what motivates your giving back, and is it something you plan to continue in the future?
Well, I suppose I have a basic tendency to help people. But also probably because I don't have a family myself, I consider everybody my family. So it's I find a lot of pressure in helping people if I can.
So in particular, your contribution and your batch's contribution during the Golden Jubilee was helped this center, the Heritage Center. So what is your opinion about our Heritage Center? Is it something we should celebrate?
I think it was, when it was intimated to me that this is going to come up, I thought, what a fantastic idea. It's a brilliant idea, and I hope all the best for it, the best wishes for it. I hope it gets bigger and bigger.
So, of course, this year we are celebrating our Diamond Jubilee.
Yeah.
So the institute itself is turning 60. So, looking forward, based on your experiences, what do you think the institute should aspire to be? I mean, are we on the right track, or would you like to see a course correction in some way?
No, I don't think I can say I can give any corrections because I'm not an educationist, so I don't know the ins and outs of running an institution. But I only wish, of course, every institute wants to be the best.
Right.
In their country, and if necessary, a world class. And I'm still waiting for the day when IITs come in the top 10 in the world rather than the top 100. And I'm sure it will happen. It's a question of time.
Sure.
And because there are enough brains in this country to get that going.
And more of them are staying back because.
Yes, I think it's happening now. At one time, there was a dearth of good inventive jobs in this country, but I would say that's not the case anymore. But it can still be improved quite a lot. But I think one of the main things for people to stay would be the lifestyle here. I find simple things are very difficult to achieve without a lot of sweat, and that should change. And if that changes, I think a lot of people would stay. And people get frustrated here because you can't get things done. Things don't move fast enough. Especially people who come from abroad, and they have experienced things which are happening just by a phone call or an email or something. And here you have to go and stand in a queue. That's very frustrating. I think if that needs to change, and once that goes, I think the job front has changed quite a lot. So that is a big incentive. But once the lifestyle also changes, then I think, of course, you can't do anything about the weather, but
So So what did you used to do during vacations when you were a student, particularly the summer vacation?
Summer vacations. I used to go and visit relatives because that's one thing that these days are different. People try and do some sort of internship or something to get some practical experience, which I think is fantastic. And I should have done it. I didn't, because we didn't think about it that way. You know, when you have a holiday, you have a holiday. But I think the holidays could be used, at least part of it could be used to learn your work.
Sure.
True, I agree.
I know that you also provided some financial support to some students who wanted to visit CERN. Do you like this idea of students doing internships not only in India but also going abroad?
No, I think I did contribute a little bit to a couple of students. No, I think it's a great idea. I think people should go out and look at how things are done in different places to get an overall view of the world. Because it's very easy to get cocooned in your own atmosphere and not know how people live elsewhere.
Right.
So I think that's a great idea.
So do you have plans to spend more time in Chennai and more time on campus?
I have plans to spend about 4 or 5 months in Chennai every year because of family commitments. And the rest of the time I'll probably be in London. But I also do visit the States where several of my relatives are there. So I travel a lot. I travel quite a bit.
But are you in touch with the civil engineering department here? Have you offered to come? Or have they contacted you about coming and giving?
I haven't. I have about 5 or 6 years ago I did, but after that I haven't. But I should.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Because we always talk about the 3 T's of giving: time, talent, and treasure.
Yeah,
So
true.
since you've already given the treasure, it would be great if you can also give your time and talent. And
yeah, no, I do. I'm quite happy to help whenever I can.
Okay. So it's been great talking to you. And
yeah, it was great coming here.
Maybe if Swamy has more questions, you can go ahead as well. So
Sure.
I need to leave for another meeting.
Sure,
So
yeah.
Hope to see you again in the
Hope
future.
to, yeah, I'm sure I will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I wanted to know about your teachers in civil engineering. Anybody who remember?
Sorry, come again?
The faculty who taught you civil engineering. You were a civil engineering student.
Yes.
Do you remember any of them?
Yes, I remember all of them.
All of them, okay. Have you met any of them recently?
Them about 4 or 5 years ago.
Who?
4 or 5 years ago, I met Radhakrishnan,
Radhakrishnan.
Rajagopalan,
Uh-huh.
Professor Verghese.
Professor Verghese is no more.
Yeah, I know. He's no
you
more.
came for that function? No.
I came for the 50th year function.
I see.
For the first batch 50th year.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that time I went to his house, met him.
He was pastor only
A few months ago.
Yeah. And Professor Radhakrishnan is in Adyar.
Yeah, I need to get their addresses so that I can go and see them.
He is in, maybe the telephone number is here.
Yeah, contact
Give
number
you
would be
telephone
fine.
number.
Yeah.
But I know that approximately he is in that, behind that Padmanabh Nagar, you know that road which goes to Iliad's Beach, next to that Alcott Memorial School. That road there is a colony just behind Padmanabh Nagar. So there he stays. I'm not able to get the name.
That's
Professor
okay.
E.G. Ramchandran was also living there.
Yeah.
Metallurgy professor.
I didn't know Professor Ramchandran, so
Professor E.G. Ramchandran is no more.
yeah, he's no more as well.
In fact, there was a function arranged to establish a chair in his name
Yeah.
last year.
That's right, yeah.
In fact, it's a very surprising that just 1 month before he passed away, he was interviewed here by the head of the Department of Metallurgy. And he came in a wheelchair in the ICSR building. And perfect memory.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that day I couldn't come. I wanted to meet him, but everything he had identified, photographs, I identified, everything else. Memory was tremendous.
Yeah.
But Professor Varghese was, of course, ailing for quite some time.
Yes,
He
that's
didn't
right.
want to.
Yeah, he was reasonably okay when I met him at his home.
In fact, we even wanted to have an interview in his house. He did not
He wasn't.
want it. No, his son is a
Yeah.
dean here, dean of administration.
Yeah.
So, but he also said yes, he doesn't like to.
Mm.
Maybe he has written something about his experiences here somewhere. But I am told that the function that was held later in his memory was a very big success.
Yeah.
By the time you left, Dr. Srinivas Rao had already joined, isn't it? P. Srinivas Rao. He was also a structures man. He came from
No, I don't remember that name.
Sudan. I think he joined 60.
Maybe it was the next year.
He came from originally from IIT Kharagpur, then German PhD, doctor engineer. And he was almost right hand to Professor Varghese. He took over the structural engineering lab. Of course.
The youngest faculty member I remember was Rajagopalan.
Rajagopal.
He joined IIT when I was doing my final year.
He was joined an associate lecturer.
That's right, yeah.
Then he took his PhD actually from Germany.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
He,
Yeah.
in fact, about a year and a half back, we had Professor Radhakrishnan, Professor Rajagopalan, and one of our juniors, maybe about 7-8 years juniors, one Kalyan Raman, who had become a professor here. He took voluntary retirement. His brother was 1 year or 2 years junior to you. I forget his name. He was metallurgy or mechanical engineering. So he has a shop in a shopping center here.
I see.
So all the three we had a group discussion. In fact, I retired in '96. So I lost my wife in 2002. Somehow or other, about 2 years back, I thought, I came here and thought, why not do something here? So what I have taken up is to prepare a list of faculty who have served this institute right from the inception.
Yes.
Of course, getting the information was not so easy.
Not that
So
easy.
we have almost completed the job.
Oh, very
So
good.
maybe we'll release it before
Yeah.
the Diamond Jubilee year closes by 31st July. So in fact, I was connected with the archive cell in Indian Institute of Science where I did my PhD. So that I had given some idea in that direction. So initially I thought Heritage Center will do some archival work, but that is going to start a separate thing now. A German professor is there, and he has collected a lot of information from the German side with respect to IIT Madras. So he wants to collect all the documents that are available, scattered all over, and try to bring some order and bring out some. And I told him we can then do archival research. So take up some small thing and then development of particular field of specialization in any branch of engineering, which happened in IIT.
I remember the German professors, Professor Hahn, Professor Koch,
He died very
and
nice.
my hydraulics professor,
Professor Ruhe, is it?
Ruhe,
Professor
Gerhard Ruhe.
Oh, yeah.
Gerhard Ruhe.
Ah.
I remember him very well.
And you would certainly remember Ebert, who was in workshop. Workshop. So. And the only other, there was one, you would not have, the applied mechanics was Professor Howe. Professor Howe, he joined in 62 or 63, before you left.
Now there were, I remember another German professor who did machine drawing.
That is Scheer.
Scheer.
Professor Scheer.
Dr. Scheer, yeah.
Yeah. You see, Professor Ruhe is no more. His grandson was here about a month back.
Ruhe's grandson.
Ruhe's grandson.
Really?
Yeah, it was very nice. He came and said my grandfather was mentioning about it, so he came and took some.
That's very nice. Yeah.
He came to the Quillian.
Yeah.
Now, you know, there was a towing tank built during his time after you left, but that was been closed down. Now that the ocean engineering is a very big, the tank and all that, so wave generator and all that. And of course, you, I think, must have been knowing Abdul Khader.
Yes.
Yeah, he left for Singapore after the doctorate, he never came back. And Tipi Ganeshan.
No.
You don't remember that. It was around the same time. Maybe he became later, after retirement, he joined SRM College, and then he was a pro-chancellor, and a huge auditorium built there is in his name, Tipi Ganeshan Auditorium, the SRM College in
SRM.
Yes. And in the hostel, you remember any of your batchmates, mischievous batchmates, there is one Veer Raghavan. Do you remember?
Veer Raghavan, yes.
Lean person, kept
Yeah.
In fact, he couldn't complete along with you. He went to the next year and he completed. So he was a very character by himself.
Yeah.
And in your juniors, there was Rajamani. You remember he went for the Republic Day parade, selected.
No, I don't know.
He was in the chemical engineering again. Very second batch, next batch.
Could be. Yeah. I don't know much about the second batch.
What about Muthu Krishnan?
No, I don't know. The only one I know is, because I met him later on, they call him Ghost.
Who?
His name is Nagarajan, yes. Nagarajan.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nagarajan. Yeah.
His nickname is Ghost. I don't know why, but
Yeah, that is second batch.
he's in second batch.
Yeah.
He's the only one I know from
No,
the second
he
batch.
used to be in the first floor somewhere. So, and I was just involved. Where were you in that?
I was on the first floor
I see.
of Kaveri Hostel, one of the wings. I forget the room number now.
Yeah. But
Because I went to Kaveri Hostel, but I couldn't recognize my room. So
you
I
could locate
didn't
your
know
room?
where it was.
you did budget in
I
the-
went all around, but I couldn't recognize them.
No, because on the mess side, there were some three.
There are some changes there
Yeah.
in the mess side.
And some of the batchmates who are settled in Madras we have met.
Yes.
Srinivasan,
Srinivasan, Mahadevan,
Mahadevan,
Neelakantan,
yeah, Amidachari,
Amadachari,
yeah, because these are-
Prabhakaran, Ramkumar.
yeah, that's correct. Are you anyway associated with the campus times?
No.
You were not contributing, but you were reading.
When I was a student here,
Ah.
I wrote an article in the journal.
Campus
The
Times.
Campus Times. I think was it called Campus Times at that time?
Campus Times is a monthly newspaper, isn't it? Yeah, monthly.
I don't think it was at that time. It was an annual number at one time.
I see.
And I wrote in one of them, I wrote an article.
You remember which annual number it was? So was it in your second, third year, fourth year?
Somewhere between 1962, 63, something like that.
The annual number 62 or 63? Your count? It's the one, is it? Oh, your article?
I wrote an article which basically was trying whimsically to imagine what it would be if light waves traveled the same way as sound waves.
Oh, I see.
Because sound you can hear from anywhere, even with an obstruction in between, but you can't see. And I wrote a funny article, basically what happens if you can see through everything. And
yeah, it is here. The chemistry of the engineer, is it right? Is it the one? Chemistry of the engineer.
that's not my initial.
Is not yours?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you
Yeah,
very
sure.
much.
Thank you very much.